How's it going? So today we're going to be covering a tutorial on how to route machine drums over to Logic. So this is something that is good to know. That way you have control over the mix of your drums. So I'm going to be showing you how to do that today. And it's actually pretty simple. It's not too hard. I figured out how to do this a few years ago. So let's get started. We'll jump right into this. So first thing you're going to want to do is we're going to go to Logic. Here, let's start this from the start. So you're going to want to open up Logic and we're going to create an empty project. So let's create a new empty project. Alright. So we're going to make our track. So we're going to want to be on the first one that's already loaded into software instrument. And we're going to want our instrument to be Maschine. So we have Maschine selected. And make sure, I know because this is usually the one that's preset to, stereo. You're going to want that to be on multi-output 16 times stereo. Now this is important for later, which is for routing the drums, each sound onto its own separate track. And I'll show you how to do that. And we have output 1 and 2. That looks good. Everything else looks good. And we're just going to make a single track for now. Alright. So I'm going to let that create. Alright, so we have our track here. And we're going to open up the mixer. And we're going to go down to the track. So our input is Maschine. So before we hit Maschine, we're going to want to create as many tracks as we can using that multi-output stereo, which allows up to 16 tracks. So just keep clicking that plus sign. Just keep kicking it. Oh, can't speak. Keep clicking it. Keep clicking that plus sign all the way up until you have 15. So it goes all the way up to 15 here. It's 16 including the first track. So now that we have our tracks here, we're gonna hit Maschine. And you can see the Maschine pops up here. So I like to just make my drums blue. Or even before you do that, it's gonna become the default color, which is red. So let's look for a drum kit. So I'm going to use the full jazz kit here. You see it turn back red. So let's I like to make it blue. There we go. Alright, so we have our drum kit here. All the sounds are over here. Now what we want to do is we want to route each of these sounds from the drum kit to each of these tracks over here. Each of these auxes. So the way to do that is going into Maschine. So we're going to want to click on this little knob over here, and it's going to take us to basically we have sound, group, master. This is basically the controls over where the sound is going and where we can direct it to. Since we're opening up Maschine in Logic, we're able to route it using this. So we're gonna start with group. So if we're gonna go to group, we're gonna hit input. And here you have the MIDI routings. So this is gonna allow us to record the MIDI inside of Logic. So we're gonna want to change that over to manual. So manual is the key mode. And this can stay the same. I'm not sure if it changes anything if you put it to host, but you can leave it on none. And channel all is fine. So everything looks good over here. Now you're gonna want to go over to sound. Now this is probably the most important part. So here you have each individual sound. We're gonna want to route this onto its own separate extension over here. So ext.1. And then we have the same thing for the audio. We want to do it for both the audio and the aux. So ext down 1. And you're going to do it all the way down for each sound. ext.2. Window 3. 4. 5. And so on. So we're just going to keep going up the numbers until you hit 16. It's pretty much, you get the idea. This is probably the most time consuming part of this whole thing. So, but once you get it all routed, it's pretty much smooth sailing from there. So, and 16. So now your sounds are routed to its own like little extension here. And so the MIDI we're not going to touch, we're going to keep that the same. So input group, so the whole entire drum group is going over to Logic. The MIDI is being routed over to Logic. And each sound is now going to be able to play through each track. So now we have the sounds going to each track, and this is so that we can mix it on Logic. Alright, so simple enough. To do this, all you have to do is focus on the sound. Make sure each one is routed correctly. If one of these is messed up, then it's going to be sure that something else is messed up in there. So just make sure you hit each one. Alright, so now let's go back into Logic. So now you'll see that I have it routed. When I hit each sound from the drum group, now they're on their own individual track. So now everything's on its own individual track. You can see that we have control over the mix and where we want to be able to basically control the levels. You know, we can move the fader if we want to have this hi-hat lower, the snare lower, or whatever. And now our MIDI, when we record the MIDI, it's going to be able to record. Okay, so here we have our little MIDI track, and you can see that now the MIDI is recording into Logic without any issues, and the sound is going to come up here when we play it. So now if I wanted to mix this a certain way, you know, we can lower down the this hi-hat over here, lower the snare if we want to. You can see like it's clipping. You can lower that down. This will always be the kick. So we got the kick, even though it has the main input as Maschine, it's only playing the kick. Alright. So now you see that everything's on its own track, and when the MIDI plays over here on Logic, it's all going to be in its own separate track. So, and then you can name these tracks, right? So this is going to be the kick, and this is going to be the snare, and this is the hi-hat. Closed one. So you get the idea here, and one important thing to know, which I will share with you right now is how to put all these tracks into the main window up here. Now, what you're going to want to do to have that is you're going to want to highlight all of these tracks. So let's start with the snare. So you're going to want to highlight all 15 of these tracks. And you see how the kick is already there, since it was the first track that we placed at the beginning. So we're going to highlight all of these, and we're going to hit create track. And now all the tracks are going to be up here on the main window. When we play, there you go. So now that we have everything on here, to make this a little more organized, what you can do is you can create a folder. So what I do is, so here I have kick. So you want to highlight each of these tracks going down in descending order. So we start with kick, snare, close hi-hat, aux 3. And since I'm using a Mac, I hold down command. And now everything's highlighted. We're going to have to right click here, or anywhere really. And what we're going to want to do is hit create track stack. Now, this allows us to create a folder to have all of our tracks within it and makes things a lot more neat. So you can click either folder stack or summing stack. I do folder stack. I'm not quite sure what the difference is, but I do folder stack, and then you can name this drum kit. And now you have everything, all the sounds down here. So everything is down here now. And there you have it. So we have our drum kit, kick, snare, close hi-hat, and all the rest of these sounds. And you can collapse the folder, and everything's there. It's nice and neat. So, and you can see here, this is just its own. This doesn't have any audio going to it. It's just this. That's just the folder for the kit, and put some drums there. There you go. All right, so that's how you basically route the drums from Maschine over into Logic. If you have any questions, concerns on anything that I went over, just drop it down in the comments, and hopefully I'll be able to assist you with that. That's about it. Hopefully next I'll be able to cover a video on how to route the MIDI, the instruments from Maschine into Logic. It's a similar process, but it's actually, I think, a little less complicated, which is good news. More content coming soon. So yeah, that'll about do it. Alright, thanks for watching.